Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Shrimat. So many poets, philosophers contributed a lot to Kannada culture, literature, and civilization. They are doing it since time immemorial. And NijaguNa Shivayogi is one of them. There are three persons in the name of NijaguNa Shivayogi. They are NijaguNa Shivayogi of the 12th century, NijaguNa Shivayogi of the 16th century AD, and NijaguNa Shivayogi of the 17th century AD. NijaguNa Shivayogi of the 12th century AD was a Vachanakara. NijaguNa Shivayogi of the 17th century was a poet who composed Advaita Ramayana in Kannada. But I would like to say something about NijaguNa Shivayogi of 16th century. NijaguNa Shivayogi of 16th century was a poet, philosopher, encyclopedist, and musicologist. His was a versatile personality. It is said that he was a king of a small province on the south bank of Kaveri river in Karnataka. But anyhow, he became an ascetic. Therefore, he had not told anything about his personal things in his works, even though he wrote an autobiography. NijaguNa Shivayogi was a philosopher, poet, and cyclopedist and musicologist. I have already told you. NijaguNa Shivayogi made a penance in a cave at Shambulingana Betta, which is near to ಕೊಳ್ಳೇಗಾಲ in the district of Chamarajanagar, Karnataka. Of course, Muppina Sadakshari is a contemporary one. NijaguNa Shivayogi made penance in that cave and became an ascetic in the strict sense. He was not confined to his ascetic qualities. In addition to that, he wrote so many works. His works are 9 in number. They are 63 ಪುರಾತನರ ತ್ರಿವಿಧಿ, that is 63 ancestors Tripadis, ಅನುಭವಸಾರ, ಪರಮಾರ್ಥ ಪ್ರಕಾಶಿಕೆ, ಪರಮಾರ್ಥ ಬೋಧೆ, ಪರಮಾನುಭವ ಗೀತೆ, ವಿವೇಕ ಚಿಂತಾಮಣಿ, and Kaivalya Paddhati, and other 2 works in Sanskrit. They are Darshana Sara and Tarka Chintamani. The works in Sanskrit such as Darshana Sara and Tarka Chintamani are not available. But other works in Kannada are available and they show to us the scholastic and pedagogic quality of NijaguNa Shivayogi. He was not only a prodigious pedagogue, but a poet and prose writer in a philosophical way, and etc. His works may be categorized into four parts. They are minor works, Vedantic works, encyclopedic work, and musicological work. And in minor work, we can cite the work of Puratanara Trividi or Puratanara Stotra. Of course, he adored much those 63 Puratanas, that is, Shiva saints. They were 63 in number. And he felt that those 63 ancestors graced him and granted him devotion and knowledge. It contains 77 stanzas, and each stanza depicts the life of one saint. Of course, NijaguNa Shivayogi is a command over condensation. The four works on Vedanta is the second category. They are Paramartha Prakashike, Paramartha Gite, and Paramanubhava Bodhe and Anubhava Sara. Paramartha Prakashike is a prose work. It is a commentary on Channa Sadasiva Yogi's Shivayoga Pradipiki. It is a kind of translation to Kannada from Sanskrit work of Channa Sadasiva Yogi's Shivayoga Pradipiki. Paramartha Gite is written in the form of a dialogue between the Guru and the Shishya. It is a short treatise on self-knowledge. It contains 1500 stanzas in Lalita Ragale. It is in the form of dialogue between Guru and Shishya, that is, preceptor and disciple tradition. It reveals the meaning of Shruti, Purana, history, and Smriti, and etc. Some of the stanzas are in 4 lines, that is, in Kanda Padyas. Paramanubhava Bodhe is an abridged edition of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It has 1000 poems in a Sangatya form. It is also in the form of dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi. Vedantic philosophy is narrated in the form of Kanta Samhiti. Anubhava Sara is in the form of dialogue between Guru and Shishya. It contains 535 tripadis on Vedanta. Now we come to Viveka Chintamani. This Viveka Chintamani is the first encyclopedic work in Kannada language, literature, and culture. Not only in Kannada, But at that time, I think that it is the first encyclopedic work in the world. Because at that time we have not heard of encyclopedic work except this Viveka Chintamani composed by NijaguNa Shivayogi. But anyhow, regarding this, a proper research, an unbiased research should be done. This Viveka Chintamani is a pedagogic and a great work. It is in prose form, and we can say it is a kind of poetic prose. It is also a classical text. Of course, this Viveka Chintamani is an endeavor of a single individual. You could not dreamt of composing an encyclopedia in the 15th century, to which century NijaguNa Shivayogi was belonged. It was not easy to collect materials at that time. There were no transport, there were no quick transport, there were no buses, trains, planes, etc., etc. There were no papers. Only the scholars depended on the writings written on palm leaves. And it was not that much of easy to collect information at that time. At that time there were no computers, there was no internet, there was no mouse to click sitting in the corner of a room and getting information from the different corners of the world. In such a situation, that NijaguNa Shivayogi collected so many things regarding 735 subjects. He referred 6,000 sources, and those subjects were different in their nature. Of course, even they dealt with 765 subjects, they were different in nature, and they were different in their philosophy, and etc., etc. They were belonged to, the subjects were belonged to as diverse as prosody and philosophy, Vedas and Virashaiva Lakshanas, cosmology and poetics, yoga and astrology, and varnashramas, music and medicines, and etc., etc. Of course, it is a fourth work referring 60,000 works dealing with 765 subjects. He focused on music in the fourth part of the book and sheds light on it. The classical text was translated to Sanskrit and Marathi language from Kannada some 450 years ago. You think of the greatness of Viveka Chintamani. When Marathi was a prestigious language at that time a Kannada work was translated from Kannada to Marathi and Sanskrit that too. Everyone tried to get information from Sanskrit language, but Viveka Chintamani is a different one, and that work was translated to other languages. 450 years ago. It shows the greatness of Viveka Chintamani even today. And of course, that Shantalinga Deshika translated it to Marathi language. NijaguNa Shivayogi is undoubtedly a prodigy. He touched everything and anything on the earth and under the sun and the moon. So, that Viveka Chintamani is a proud work of Kannada literature and culture. And that is an encyclopedia. And then another work is Kaivalya Paddhati. It is an autobiographical as well as original. It has 640 songs in a number of ragas. NijaguNa Shivayogi used his signature Shambhulinga in this work. Of course, it is the first work of musical compositions in Kannada culture, literature and language. It is in a beautiful, superb poetry, almost impossible to translate it to any other languages in the world. It is very notable for its form and compositions and contents, revealing numerous moods from noise to supreme realization. It is said that it is a kind of musicology in Kannada which is followed by Purandara Dasa and others later on in the form of Karnataka music. So it is a kind of foundation and preface to Karnataka music which creates and carves its own niche in the world of music. His 6 major works are considered as the Shat Shastras of Kannada in particular and world in general. Of course, NijaguNa Shivayogi left an indelible impression in the minds of persons aspiring for culture, literature, language, and knowledge seeking ones. In this way, the manner in which these works were composed made them to be enshrined and embalmed for centuries to centuries, forever and ever. His teachings and works remain and reverberates in the hearts and minds of people for many centuries to come on and on. Of course, in the strict sense, NijaguNa Shivayogi is an immortal one, and Kannada culture, literature and language is very proud of NijaguNa Shivayogi, and NijaguNa Shivayogi is a model for everyone. And Kannada culture, language, literature and philosophy contributed a lot to the world literature and culture and civilization through NijaguNa Shivayogi. That is what we have to say. That is what we will say very proudly. We are proud of that NijaguNa Shivayogi. So, all his works showed the way one has to go from lower level to higher level, and one has to achieve something in the life. So in this background, that NijaguNa Shivayogi was a real achiever, was a real philosopher, poet, encyclopedic and musicologist. So anyhow, one should be very proud of him as he was, as he is a model of culture, civilization, language, and literature. I hope I have revealed to you regarding NijaguNa Shivayogi in a way I and you like it. Subscribe and share it, and see you in the next episode. Thank you. Namaskar.